In the shadows of a military outpost, unassuming Dr. Sara Chen defies authority, challenging Captain Klex's understanding of leadership. As chaos unfolds, she proves that compassion can reshape power dynamics among species. Will her choices lead to salvation or peril? In a universe where ranks dictate command, can humanity afford to redefine what it means to lead? Don't forget to subscribe. 91% of viewers enjoy our content, but forget to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with our daily sci-fi stories and support a dedicated team of storytellers and content creators who rely on this as their livelihood. Within the metallic confines of Omega United Fleet Station, the air crackled with tension, thick with the smell of machine grease and the electric pulse of responsibility. Pulsating lights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows against the cold, sterile walls. The hum of machinery resonated throughout the operational hub as Captain Klex, tall and lean with angular features that seemed chiseled from stone, observed the frantic movements of human personnel with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. His dark green uniform glimmered with insignias of rank that, in this moment, felt increasingly irrelevant. Officers in crisp uniforms barked orders, cutting through the ambient noise of equipment and urgent announcements. But amid the disarray, their actions felt hollow, mechanical. They appeared to act on instinct rather than purpose, a performance without conviction. Out of the chaos entered Dr. Sara Chen, a striking figure whose intensity captivated Klex immediately. Her olive skin contrasted with the stark whiteness of her medical scrubs, and a wild mane of curly hair framed her face, hinting at the fierce determination that burned in her brown eyes. Though lacking a military insignia, she strode forward with a quiet confidence that seemed to pull the room's focus onto her. "Sara, directives!" snapped General Murdoch, his voice heavy with authority yet laced with doubt. The broad-shouldered general, with his neatly cropped hair and a face that bore the scars of countless encounters, was the embodiment of military command. Yet here, in this moment, his stern persona wavered as he confronted an inexplicable force. "I won't waste time on ranks, General. Lives are at stake," she replied, her calmness cutting through the noise like a laser beam, instantly garnering attention. There was an urgency to her voice that punctuated the atmosphere, drawing the eyes of those around her like moths to a flame. Klex shifted uncomfortably, taking meticulous notes of this unfolding anomaly. This was supposed to be a military operation, yet it was a doctor who had seized control. Her wisdom eclipsed their rigid hierarchy. As he peered through the glass partition separating him from the chaos, he could feel the effects of her presence. It was as if a flame ignited in the hearts of those present. He questioned everything he had learned about authority, as the remnants of arrogance fell away beneath the gravity of her conviction. Moreover, Dr. Chen strode with purpose towards the central terminal, where a holoscreen flickered ominously, a cascade of data illuminating her face. Klex watched her, transfixed, as she scanned the latest reports detailing a potential crisis in the distant mining colony of Viridian-5. He recorded every nuance of her facial expressions, the slight frown of concentration, the spark of determination when she suggested an unorthodox approach. As alarms blared in the distance, a sense of urgency surged through the command room. The unfamiliar weight of responsibility hung heavily in the air, palpable and daunting for Klex. In an ironic twist of fate, his role as an observer began to feel increasingly inadequate. He was supposed to be capturing the story, yet he found himself swept into a narrative even he could not control. Just as he was lost in thought, the intercom crackled to life, slicing through the tension like a knife. "Emergency alert! All personnel to their stations!" The urgency in the brass-toned voice sent shivers through Klex's spine, and he felt an electric thrill of apprehension. An emergency alert echoed through the station, sharp and urgent. "Chemical leak in Sector 7, blared the intercom, a mechanized voice reverberating off the cold metal walls. Panic surged like wildfire as blue lights strobed, casting a ghostly pallor on the faces of the personnel. Klex's heart raced, adrenaline thrumming in his veins. Officers scrambled through the narrow corridors, barricading their panic behind military bravado. But in the chaos, Dr. Sara Chen stood resolute, the eye of a storm. "Form a perimeter," she called, her voice cutting through the chaos with an authority that defied military decorum. She exuded an unyielding presence, her dark hair pulled back tightly, emphasizing the intensity in her expressive eyes. Each word was a command forged in urgency, demanding respect, no matter the insignia of her uniform. Klex could scarcely believe his eyes, as her clear-eyed decisiveness rendered ranks moot, dissolving the veneer of hierarchy that had pervaded the station. "Doctor, this is my operation," General Murdoch boomed, his voice thick with disbelief and a rare tremor of uncertainty creeping in. He loomed large, chin raised high, yet the apprehension flickered beneath his bravado like an electric current. "Not anymore," she retorted, her tone sharp as a vibroblade. "We need to stabilize the area, or we risk losing everyone in this sector. Trust me." Klex scribbled furiously in his notepad, grappling with the overt defiance that was unraveling the military's tight grip. This was not merely disobedience, it was a profound transformation in leadership. With each stroke of his pen, he stripped away the remnants of his training that had taught him to revere ranks, making room for a realization that seemed almost revolutionary. Perhaps the true essence of authority resided not in emblems or uniforms, but in the tenacity of the heart and the wisdom born from experience. As the alarm echoed throughout the metallic halls, shouts and hurried footsteps filled the air. The sterile scent of the station suddenly felt heavy with the metallic tang of fear. Klex could only watch, the world blurring at the edges of his focus, as Dr. Chen leaped into action with a singular purpose. "Over there! We need the containment suits!" she yelled, directing the soldiers with precision. Soldiers, human and Zexian alike, scrambled to gather equipment, their hands moving in synchrony under her guidance. Klex's admiration grew as he observed the seamless way she commanded this diverse force. A group that once operated under divisive doctrines had become a unified entity, Zexians and humans side by side, cooperating for a common goal. Amid the chaos, the communication arrays crackled to life, providing a frantic stream of information from the on-ground personnel. Klex could hear their distress, the voices laden with urgency and fear, practically pleading for assistance. "At least 12 miners trapped," a voice screamed out. "We need medics now." Those words pierced through Klex like a dart. The miners, stationed in the depths of Sector 7, were more than just statistics. They were people, each with a story, families waiting in the station, hearts racing alongside his own. "Sara, we won't make it in time," he gasped during a brief moment of solace, his voice thick with anxiety. "Keep those miners alive long enough for our help to get there," she urged, her eyes fierce yet brimming with compassion. Her determination was fierce and unwavering, as if acknowledging that every second they delayed could tilt the scales between life and death. The depth of her knowledge was nothing short of stunning, and she quickly articulated a plan that seamlessly flowed between human medical techniques and Zetexian technology. Klex watched, transfixed, as Dr. Chen navigated the confines of time and space, each movement meticulous. "Follow her lead," he urged the crew, his voice rising above the disarray, rallying the frightened team behind her. This was no longer simply a search and rescue. It had morphed into a collective fight for survival. He felt a surge of solidarity as hope unfurled through the group, an adrenaline-fueled bond forming among them. They gathered gear. The metallic clattering of instruments hitting the floor echoed as if marking a decisive turning point. Dr. Chen took charge of the medical apparatus, aligning the equipment specific to the unique physiology of the Zexians. What astonished Klex further was how they relied on each other without the constraints of fear or prejudice. He had seen moments of cooperation before, but this felt monumental, a genuine alliance born out of a shared heart. As he scrambled to lend a hand, the realization struck him. This chaotic scene, rife with uncertainty, was painting a new kind of order. What began as frantic panic morphed into a synchronized dance of skill and care, proving time-worn hierarchies to be not just ineffective but obsolete. As minutes melted into hours, the station was alive with urgency and determination. Klex moved alongside the team, their spirits rising amid failure's shadows. Yet every shared glance and moment of camaraderie added weight to the mission. They were no longer simply executing orders, they were pouring their souls into saving lives. "Bring the bioscanner. We need to triage now," Dr. Chen commanded, her voice linking the chaos into a cohesive directive. It was as if she wielded the force of 1,000 stars. Her energy radiated lifeblood through the crew, invigorating them to press on even when weariness threatened to shroud them. Her hands worked deftly across the wounded, bringing life to the callous machinery of medical equipment. Time seemed to bend around her, each second stretching as she focused with laser-like intensity on the task at hand. "I've got you. Just breathe," she reassured a miner struggling to regain control, her touch steady and warm. The bustling atmosphere fell into a hush. Klex felt the weight of the world shift alongside Sara's fervor, their pulses aligned like synchronizing stars. "This is what true authority looks like," he whispered to himself, awed by the display of courage and empathy unfolding before him. As they revived lifeless bodies and stabilized those on the brink, Klex couldn't resist documenting it. The precise notes tumbled into a revelation of meaning. The old ways must evolve through compassion and cooperation. He understood then that this incident would redefine how they approached not just this crisis, but all classes of their future interactions. Sweat glistened on foreheads, and soot-smeared smiles. Resolve shone brighter than ever. As the alarms wailed around them, blending with the desperate cries of those above the surface, they became the heroes of their own tale, unified against the vast unknown that threatened to fracture their fragile existence. Finally, as the smoke cleared and the bustle around them diminished into labored breaths and shared relief, Dr. Chen addressed her exhausted team, her voice steady. News of a potential catastrophe swept across the station as the crisis escalated. The miners trapped in the nearby sector needed immediate medical attention. Klex's heart sank at the realization of the imminent danger they faced, caught between shifting metal walls and toxic gases. Every second felt like an eternity, and as Dr. Sara Chen gathered her thoughts, Klex could sense the tension rising like a dark storm cloud overhead. "Sara, we won't make it in time," he gasped during a brief moment of solace, anxiety flooding his voice. Her composure was remarkable. As the sounds of alarms and frantic whispers enveloped them, she remained a bastion of hope amidst the flurry. "Keep those miners alive long enough for our help to get there," she urged, determination etching her every feature. With her hands poised in a clinical grip, she internally calculated the risks and outcomes. The depth of her knowledge was stunning. She quickly articulated a plan that flowed seamlessly between human and Zexian techniques. "Follow her lead," Klex urged, rallying the frightened crew behind her. His own voice trembled, but behind his words was a growing confidence. He witnessed the alliance blossom. Zexians and humans shared equipment, wisdom, and most importantly, hope. It was something he had doubted possible just moments before. Klex observed as Sara deftly punched data into her handheld device, illuminating the severity of injuries the miners had sustained. The most critical injuries involve respiratory failure due to high levels of toxic exposure. "We need oxygen tanks on site and antitoxins ready for administration. Lieutenant Trask, coordinate with the engineering team to override the sector barriers." Every command she issued flowed with the certainty of a seasoned general, though her demeanor remained that of a compassionate healer. Klex marveled at how she transformed from a mere doctor into a leader, defying all preconceived notions of authority. The moments blurred into a montage of activity, punctuated by the echoing clamor of machinery and desperate shouts. Amidst the chaos, Klex felt a powerful shift, a realization that transcended mere survival. In that pivotal instant, they were no longer just personnel following orders. They were a collective force, united by a single purpose. "Prepare the stabilization units and the medibots," Sara shouted once more, seizing momentum. "We need quick access to the breach and a pathway to extract the miners." Her voice resonated with urgency, igniting a fire in the souls of the officers surrounding her. As the preparations rallied in rhythm with her commands, Klex stole another glance at Sara. The way she moved, so sure and precise, reshaped his understanding of strength. The battlefield was no longer defined by weapons, but by the courage they wielded in the face of insurmountable odds. Suddenly, sirens blared, a surge of dread slicing through them. Specialist Harlan, A tall, stocky Zexian with deep emerald skin and bioluminescent stripes running down his arms, rushed over, breathing heavily. "Captain, the sector's integrity is failing prematurely. We have—" "Don't say it," Klex snapped instinctively, his ethical pride colliding with the encroaching fear clawing at his chest. "Time is against us, Klex. We need to act now." Harlan's voice trembled as he pointed to the monitor displaying flashing red alerts. Rectangular images of the compromised sector blinked furiously, highlighting what appeared to be cracks spidering across the walls and floors, releasing tendrils of noxious clouds. Klex felt time slip through his fingers. "You heard her. Move!" he squarely commanded, his voice channeling an urgency he didn't quite feel but knew had to resonate with his crew. The Zexians flowed in synchronization with human speed, a remarkable mingling that lifted Klex's spirits. "Use the deployment drones," Sara insisted. She adjusted her eyepiece and leaned into the holographic display that swirled above her wrist. "Reinforce the perimeter and send stabilizers to the breach points." As the team surged into action, Klex felt the adrenaline surge as their collaboration became a dance of deft maneuvering. Equipment that had been designed for warfare found its new application in healing and rescue. The irony wasn't lost on him. Bit by bit, machines whirred into life, and the tension began to soften. Operators became dancers on the emergency stage, each aware of the stakes at hand, as they transformed the chaos around them into orderly, intricate progress. His heart swelled with an unimagined pride, pulses thrumming in time with their collective effort. Just then, an unexpected explosion rattled the foundations of the base. An echo rippled through the air that sent waves of shock coursing through their ranks, and the lights flickered ominously. Dust and debris swirled, and Klex instinctively reached out to steady himself against the wall. "Status report," Dr. Chen shouted amidst the tumult, her eyes wide as she darted her gaze across the crew. "Sector stability at critical levels," a voice near Klex shouted back, fear tainting the urgency of the tone. "No, we will not let them die." Sara articulated each word, her resolve cutting through the mounting tension. Klex felt the primal call to action. "Get the drones launched! Every second counts!" He urged the personnel, and they rushed to their respective stations, collaborative fervor spiking back to life. With the drones deployed, they soared like metallic birds into the smoke-filled chamber. The internal camera feed streamed footage straight to Sara's device. Her intense focus was mesmerizing, and Klex felt his breath catch as he realized that she was meticulously analyzing each pixel of data like a seasoned strategist. "Prepare for the extraction sequence," she directed, her hands flying over the console, inputting commands with a speed that illuminated her expertise. Miners' faces appeared on the drone's feed, some ghostly pale, others gasping for breath. A raw display of human fragility that pulled at Klex's heart. "Patch me in," Sara commanded the team, her voice steady and resolute. "We need to prioritize the miners near the eastern breach first. Harlan, ready the stabilizers. We're going in." The transformation in the atmosphere was palpable. Fear turned to focus as every officer unleashed their trained instincts. They became a tapestry woven of disparate threads, pulled into a single purpose, defying the odds before them. Time descended like thick mist around them. Klex found himself alongside Sara, peering through the viewport of the command center, watching as the drones maneuvered. In a world that often felt so black and white, he was surprised to find his heart warmed by the vivid colors of cooperation painted before him. Ambivalence faded away. They were all in this fight together. "Just tell me we're still on target," Harlan's voice broke through the murmur. Inside the dimly lit confines of the Omega United Fleet Station's medical bay, the atmosphere crackled with tension. The walls, reinforced with alloys designed to withstand cosmic impacts, seemed to pulse with the urgency of the crisis unfolding. A dusting of alien materials, brought in from recent mining operations, lingered in the air like an ominous cloud. These particles, remnants of the hazardous chemical leak, added a layer of uncertainty to an already dire situation. Dr. Sara Chen stood at the epicenter of this chaos, her voice piercing through the clamor that permeated the room. "Bring the bioscanner. We need to triage now." Her clinical command resonated with authority, not from her military insignia, but from her unwavering focus on saving lives. As she deftly maneuvered around the frantic medical staff, Klex observed every move as if it were a sacred dance. The miners lay scattered on the cold metal tables, their faces etched with pain and fear. Each one represented a fragmented life, punctured by the industrial catastrophe that had unfolded mere moments ago. Klex felt the stinging weight of responsibility resting heavily on his shoulders. How did it come to this? He wondered, every fiber of his being yearning for answers as he watched Sara manage the chaos that had overwhelmed their once orderly station. "I've got you. Just breathe," Dr. Chen softly reassured one miner whose fiery red skin, alien to human eyes, glistened with sweat. The familiar sight of emergency medical equipment was juxtaposed with the unusual biotropic gadgets unique to the Zexian culture. These devices, sentient and designed to communicate with their users in a language of light and sound, flickered to life, emanating soft glows that melded into the ambient chaos. Klex's heart raced. The bioscanner whirred into action, projecting live biometrics on its holographic interface. The miner's vital signs danced erratically on the display, mirroring the tumultuous upheaval in the medical bay. "We need sedatives. They're in shock," Sara commanded with an urgency that sliced through the panic. Amid the frenzy, Klex felt a realization beginning to dawn. The Zexians, usually relegated to the peripheries of his strategic mindset, suddenly emerged as invaluable allies. Their advanced technologies combined with human empathy could form the bedrock of a new cooperative future. "I don't know how long this can hold," he murmured, glancing at the monitors as readings continued to fluctuate dangerously. "Focus, Klex. Stay present." Dr. Chen's voice rang out, grounding him. She gestured for him to assist in tagging the most critical patients. Together they worked swiftly, the clinical precision echoing the rhythm of a well-oiled machine. "You see, Klex, in the face of calamity, we don't just rely on military tradition. We innovate. We adapt." Klex nodded, steeling himself against the overwhelming odds. Eager technicians darted around, their uniforms culturally mismatched, some human, some Zexian. It embodied a burgeoning alliance that reflected their newfound collaboration. But even as they battled time and circumstance, a distant hum began to resonate through the hollow corridors of the outpost. Klex's eyes flickered toward the entrance, as an ominous dull tremor echoed like a heartbeat. His instincts prickled. Something else was stirring beyond the walls. A lurking, unknown threat. "Get back to work!" Sara shouted, breaking the encroaching dread that threatened to engulf everyone. "We can't afford to get distracted. We'll face that when we have the miners stabilized." As she shifted attention back to her patients, Klex felt his determination resurge. He was no longer merely an observer. He was part of this transformative moment in their history. Each pair of hands worked in concert under her inspiring leadership, fashioning a makeshift team resilient against adversity. The cry of one miner sent a ripple of alarms through their ranks, ushering a wave of urgency akin to a battle charge. In the fray, whispers of Zexian technology entered his consciousness. Advanced medical tools pulsed with bioluminescence, interfacing directly with the miner's anatomy to alleviate their suffering. Circular drones flitted about, tiny, mechanical beings equipped with healing nanites, administering assistance faster than any human could. They emitted soothing sounds that morphed into a melody of comfort, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere amidst the turmoil. "Hold that for a second," Dr. Chen commanded, nodding at a Zexian volunteer who was preparing a serum. His eyes widened in understanding, his fins fluttering with the slightest flicker of iridescent light. Klex absorbed every facet of this dynamic interplay, the haunting beauty of an alien healthcare system forged under pressure, the collaborative spirit that eclipsed existing hierarchies. But as they lamented the multitude of fractures left on the miners' bodies, the rumbling crescendoed from outside. Klex instinctively glanced at the reinforced blast doors. "Sara, there's something coming!" A sinking feeling clawed at his gut. As if summoned, the comm system erupted with urgency, a voice crackling through the static with alarming clarity. "Emergency alert! Approaching unidentified vessels." The words felt like thunder, echoing in their hearts as dread began to weave its way through the medical bay. Klex's throat constricted. Fear danced in his veins, yet he could not tear his gaze away from the scene unfolding. Sara tightened her jaw, focusing on her mission, even as the imminent crisis threatened to spill into their operations. "Klex," she called, "we need to finish here. The lives of our miners depend on us." But his senses felt heightened. The world around him took on a staccato rhythm. "How can we fight if we can't save them?" he blurted out, panic thinning the brittle line between bravery and fear. "By trusting our instincts," Dr. Chen replied fiercely. "We're not just warriors, we're healers." As the medical team rallied around her, Klex sought clarity. He turned his gaze once more to the flickering holograms, lives hanging in the balance against an impending violence. Each reading pulsated threat, and the restlessness of the miners felt palpable, their breaths shallow, fraught with the unknown. The tremors intensified. Vibrations surged through the metallic structure like the looming shadow of a gathering storm. The very walls of their refuge vibrated in resonance, with a sinister unknown as a bright light streamed beyond the shattered remains of the facility's perimeter, illuminating the chaos within. "Get to the armory! Prepare for whatever's coming!" An officer shouted from deeper in the base as alarms blared, a wrecking ball of urgency sweeping through the medical bay. "Stick together! We'll finish treating these miners, and then we'll confront whatever that is," Sara directed forcefully, embodying the unwavering resolve of a leader straddling two worlds. As the cacophony of urgency faded into silence, a profound stillness settled over the makeshift command center. Dust motes danced through the narrow beams of light filtering from the overhead panels, casting an ethereal glow on the faces of those gathered. Exhausted but victorious, the team wore expressions of bewilderment and awe, as if they had shared an experience that transcended the boundaries of their disparate worlds. Dr. Sara Chen stood at the forefront, her figure illuminated by the soft light, an embodiment of resilience. Her face, streaked with remnants of the day's labor, radiated a determined warmth that drew the attention of every officer and miner present. Captain Klex observed her quietly, feeling an emotion stirring within him. A deep respect, coupled with an ever-changing understanding of leadership. "Understand this," Dr. Chen began, her voice carrying a tone that resonated in the gathered crowd, silencing even the faint murmurs. "True command comes from compassion and cooperation, not rank." Her gaze met Klex's, a silent invitation for him to join her in this reckoning. Klex felt a wave of electricity wash over him. The norms he'd fought to uphold began to dissolve, replaced by the realization that engagement and empathy could spark profound change. "Indeed," he said, stepping forward, emboldened. "Let's remember this moment each time we face a crisis. Knowledge and care can bridge any divide." Quote. Around them, heads nodded in unison as the Zexian soldiers and human crew found common ground. They were no longer merely factions of duty, but allies forged through the trials they had just faced together. Each individual, from the highest-ranking officer to the lowest-ranking miner, felt the weight of this revelation settle upon them like a warm embrace. Klex glanced at Dr. Chen, whose expression softened even further. "This moment isn't just about our success today," she added, her voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying the gravitas of a speaker addressing a grand assembly. "It's a testament to what we can achieve together. Knowing how to listen and act with purpose is the greatest strength we hold." Quote. As the revelation sunk in, a camaraderie began to blossom. Clusters formed as discussions sparked among soldiers and medics alike, reflecting the nascent understanding that transcended human and Zexian cultures. They shared insights into each other's methods and beliefs as life's lessons emerged from their challenges. In a corner of the room, Officer Reyna, a skilled Zexian biologist with bioluminescent skin that shifted colors in response to her moods, approached a group of huddled human miners. "Your procedures, how you respond to medical emergencies, are impressive. I'd like to learn them," she said, hers a voice tinted with genuine curiosity. Klex caught a surge of energy ripple through the group, excitement mingling with an eagerness to share knowledge. To us, it's mundane, but we'd be happy to teach you what we know, one miner responded, an amused chuckle in his tone. You'd be amazed at how our techniques focus on speed over precision. There was laughter, the sound resonant and infectious, weaving through the room and tapping into the deeper reservoir of their experiences. Klex seized the moment, stepping back to observe the new world forming around him. It was as if the walls that had once divided them were crumbling, revealing pathways to understanding and camaraderie that had always lain beneath the surface. Tears stung his eyes, not from grief, but from an overwhelming sense of hope. He turned to Dr. Chen, who continued to guide the conversations, now moving into a circle of participation from both races. Sara, Klex started tentatively, I've witnessed the shift in everyone here. Why do you think it happened today? She paused, her gray eyes searching his as if reading the depths of his curiosity. Star captains often ignore the cries of their crews, delegating responsibility without understanding the weight of their decisions. But in crisis, we see the essence of our humanity, or in our case, our essence as beings, be it human or Zexian alike. It's not just about orders, it's about the lives we protect. Her insights rang uncomfortably true, but Klex found a sense of peace in her words. He seemed to finally grasp the core of their shared existence, recognizing that the galaxy was rife with complexities much like their own diverse backgrounds. Divisions often built on misunderstanding and fear. Together, they could build bridges across those divides. Do you think this can be sustained? He asked shyly, his heart racing with the possibilities that lay before him. Every journey begins with a single step, she responded, a smile illuminating her fatigue. If each of us remembers this moment, it could very well mark the dawn of something extraordinary. As hours transformed into a riveting discussion involving tactical strategies and cross-training simulations, Klex could scarcely contain himself. He realized this day would stand as a milestone, a narrative he would inscribe into the annals of both their people's histories. Finally, as the discussions simmered down and the laughter subsided into an air of rejuvenation, Klex felt a movement in his chest. The crowd began to unfurl and dissipate, but not before he took a bold step forward to share one last thought. Tomorrow, as we re-establish our duties, let's always remember this, that our strength lies not just in our technology, but in each other, that we can learn from one another and grow stronger together, Zexian and human. He paused, searching for the right words. In unity, we create a future rich with possibilities. Quote. A silence followed, filled with reflections. In that quiet moment, Klex witnessed the awakening of newfound purpose in their eyes, a mirror reflecting their shared essence. As they exited the room, the stars twinkled brightly in the void outside, glistening against the backdrop of infinite possibilities. Klex dared to envision a collective future where understanding could traverse the depths of space itself. But deep inside, he couldn't shake the notion that this was merely the beginning of something much greater. A foundation built not just on respect, but a belonging that surged like starlight across the cosmos. What other secrets awaited them in the vast universe, just beyond their reach? Each heartbeat seemed to echo the possibilities, resonating softly in his mind as he stepped into the shimmering night, ready to forge ahead. As his eyes directed skyward, Klex carried with him a beacon of hope that ventured far into the unknown. It was a reminder that amidst the chaos of the universe, unity was their strongest ally. If you liked this story based on real events, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like it. Here you can dive into a different reality every day, where anything can happen. Comment below what kind of story you would like to hear here. Thank you very much for your attention. We are the Sci-Fi family.